to episode 4 of the Beast Coast Army podcast. I'm your host, Myers, along with the owner of G Code Nutrition, Nas Aficionado, Greg G. Diesel.
That I am indeed. Good to see you, brother. How are you?
Likewise, man. Good. We got a couple black eyes here, but
I see that. And not because of fisticuffs, not because you had to take it there.
No, I had
you don't have to get into details, but you can break down a little bit what happened.
Yeah, I got a nose job.
You did.
Talk
about
it. No, for years my wife has been telling me you're not breathing in your sleep, or you multiple times at night. Like I have to push you awake to get you to start breathing again.
Sure.
So I finally went to an ENT. He took a look at it. He's like, "Yo, your nostrils are completely collapsed. Your nose is barely working. We could fix this." So I went in last Wednesday and had a septoplasty done to straighten everything out.
Awesome.
So for the past week, I've been in recovery. Well, it hasn't been that bad, and hopefully this fixes the problem. But I think, for a long time, I've just been tired all the time, and I'm supplementing with a lot of caffeine and different stimulants to be productive.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this allows me to dial back on that stuff.
Right. No, for sure, man. And I mean, it's funny too, right? Because you're like, here I am under the impression that I'm getting, and now it's probably inadequate, even if you were getting perfect sleep for the amount that you're getting, right? But nonetheless, you're like, all right, I was under the impression I was getting X hours of sleep every night. Why am I so tired?
Yep.
And it's like, look, just because you're technically asleep doesn't mean the quality of your sleep is such that you're getting all the recuperative benefits and restorative benefits of the sleep that you should be, right? And and obviously, your breathing being compromised and whatnot while you sleep is undermining all of that, right? So like, I mean, dude, that could dramatically help in so many ways, right? And it seems so obvious, right? It's like, oh, well, you're not breathing well while you sleep, which means you wake up, your sleep's inconsistent, all of the, probably your circadian rhythm, right, is probably thrown off by your inability to probably properly process oxygen while sleeping, which throws off, your REM sleep and all that, and undermines everything, and you wouldn't even be aware of it. You know what I mean? Like, you would just be like, what do you mean? I slept 6 hours last night. What do you mean? Why would I be so tired all the time? So makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, with the smartwatches that are out now, and I know they're not perfectly accurate, but the Apple Watch can tell you your different stages of sleep.
Sure.
And I think you're supposed to get 1 to 2 hours of deep sleep. I was getting 15 to 20 minutes.
Wow.
So I'd be asleep, but it wasn't where I needed to be. And I think we're realizing more and more, A, as we get older, and B, as more studies and science come out about this, how important sleep is just for life, and especially if you train hard.
For sure.
That's when you recover. That's when you grow.
Performance, for life, for longevity. Like I often talk about it, right? But it's like you only have so many recovery components, right? Factors in your life that are, helping you to restore, depending on how intense your lifestyle is. I mean, even for a sedentary person, but then you add in somebody who's, like you're saying, training intensely on a regular basis and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, the first two and most obvious things we look to are food and sleep, right? And if we're undermining our recovery by, neglecting either of those, or either of those are suboptimal or even way worse than that, right, are terrible, we're entirely neglecting them, then we're compromising our recovery to a point that, like, you don't have a fighting chance. You know what I mean? So like, any opportunity that we can take to improve those two key factors, right, how we eat and how we sleep, can make such a difference. And it's like, if they're the two biggest, most important things we have going for us, and we don't pay enough attention to them, and we allow those to fall by the wayside, then you're screwed. And then it's also too, the other thing you realize is that not only is that sleep critical to your performance, to gaining muscle mass and strength and any kind of athletic goals that somebody might have, right? But also they talk about brain health and fighting chronic disease, and any kind of aging onset related illness, and how important sleep is in fighting that stuff, right? So just in terms of general health, it's crazy.
Yeah, and all the factors that affect your sleep too. I mean, for the longest time, I was having, after dinner, settling down, having a beer or two before sleep, and that affects it.
Sure.
Even 1 to 2 will
Yeah.
screw up your sleep,
Sure. Sure.
which is
Yeah.
wild. And then there's go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then, yourself, you have a sleep product out there
Right.
that helps with these things, and it does.
Right.
I've tracked it before.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, we created that because we felt it was so essential, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's funny, like the necessity is the root of invention, whatever
Right,
that way
yeah,
is, right? Ingenuity, right? Necessity, right, breeds ingenuity, or however you say that, right? And necessity is the father of invention, whatever, however it is. But the concept, right, being that because you need something badly, it motivates you to create
right.
something to address the need
Yeah,
you have, right? Like we always say when we started G Code, we launched it with Vice, and one of the reasons we launched the brand with Vice is because when we were lining up things to start the brand, I was in a stage where I had two newborns and a 20-month-old daughter,
uh-huh,
right? So we had three babies under the age of 2 years old. And I went from a place of like where pre-workout was like, oh, a cool tool in my arsenal, to becoming
mhm,
like a daily necessity that I could not go without. Right.
right,
So
yeah,
we started that if I was going to be productive, if I was going to, live up to any of my responsibilities, if I was going to get anything done, let alone anything ambitious beyond just the bare minimum, I needed that extra caffeine every day. Right. So that was like why we launched with Vice. And then when we launched with Dream, it was sort of the flip side of that, right? Where we realized, look, we're all under lots of stress. We're all training hard and all within our circle, or we're all under a lot of stress. We're all training hard and consistently. We all have, complicated, complex lives, and we're all highly caffeinated, right?
mhm,
And
yep,
these things are undermining this critical recovery factor, which is sleep. How can we address that? What can we do? So that's
uh-huh,
where Dream came from.
yeah, that's a great
We
product.
I think we launched Dream like in the middle of the pandemic,
Okay,
like really like mid COVID. It
uh-huh,
might have been like summer 2020 or something like that, and it was largely motivated just by the various factors of life during that time and how critical good sleep was. You know,
mhm, and that was probably eh, the motivation, or maybe the product that got you thinking about that was Animal PM, right?
I mean, and that was
That was the OG of it.
not to spill the tea too much, but
Yeah,
myself and my buddy Jay from Universal, he and I were the ones who formulated that together. That was a
okay,
concept of mine, and it was sort of born out of the idea that like my training was hard, my sleep was limited. If I can't get the quantity of sleep I wish I could, how can I improve the quality of my sleep to the best of my
mhm,
ability, right? If quantity is not an option, whatever
right,
sleep I'm getting, how can I make it the best 4 hours possible or whatever I was getting, right? How can I make that the best that I possibly can? What can we add to a typical sleep and relaxation blend that also kind of like promotes anabolism and muscle recovery, right? And it was like
mhm,
all of those motivations went into formulating Animal PM. But once again, it was sort of born out of like, oh man, I personally would really benefit from
yeah,
something like this existing. Let's
right,
make this happen, you know?
yeah,
So,
and those are always the best
and
products.
and the other thing too that you realize, like when it comes to product development, or really kind of like the development of any kind of creation, right? Crafting something from scratch is that like if you feel the need in your life for that thing, the odds are there's other
Right,
people who are feeling that as well. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
yeah,
I wish I had X, Y, or Z to help me in this situation. If you're feeling that, then odds are there's other people out there who are feeling that. So like
mhm,
that's the void that you're trying to fill.
yeah,
It's
and
it's a common thing. It's not just you. You know,
yeah, and the best products are the ones that fix a problem that you have, right?
right?
That's
Exactly.
where all of it comes
Exactly.
from.
Exactly.
Um,
And man, we talked about already multiple times on the podcast so far, right? Is like we're a highly caffeinated society,
yeah,
right? And it is what it is. I'm fine with that. If that's my worst vice, then I'm doing okay. But I also realize that and like everything, it's a fine line, right? And if I'm hammering a gram of caffeine every day and I'm not sleeping well because of it, then I got to fix something. You know what I
mhm,
mean? So it's like,
yeah,
and maybe I'm hammering a gram of caffeine a day because I'm not sleeping well,
exactly.
right? And it's like
That's what I
Am
was
I
thinking.
hammering a gram of chicken a day, right? Am I hammering a gram of caffeine a day because I'm not sleeping well, or am I not sleeping well because I'm hammering
Right.
caffeine a day, right? So it's like, how do we address that?
Yeah. Then
Speaking of which, I'm about to mix up some caffeine myself.
Okay. Let's do it.
How about you?
Yeah, man. I gotta
While we're
find my
talking
shaker
about
bottle.
how our sleep is compromised and how we're highly caffeinated,
Yeah.
let's just go there.
So I already mixed mine up because if I don't, I'm gonna
Nice.
spill it over all over my
I'm doing mine in
computer.
real time. I
Okay.
got a tri chamber here. I'm doing mine in real time.
All right. I'm gonna show everyone what I'm taking.
Yeah.
Vice Triple X,
Ah,
Baja Blast.
I love that flavor.
I love the flavor. This pre-workout's fucking awesome, and I'm not just
Thank
blowing
you, bro.
smoke. This thing is, I
Ah,
mean,
bro.
dude, everything is in
I
efficacious
appreciate that, my brother. I don't take it for granted, man. I appreciate that
efficacious
you like it.
doses.
And not to cut you off, but I also know that you know what you speak because you've tried it all over the
Yeah,
years. So
right.
like if you think highly of it, it was like we had Eric on, right? And
Uh-huh.
like if I formulate something that Eric likes, I think to myself, all right, well then we're we're doing okay because he's
Right.
tried everything. So if he
Uh-huh.
likes it, then it means we're probably doing it right.
Yeah. This is the best one I've had in a long, long time.
That's
I'm excited
awesome.
about the formulation here. Um, but you have like just to go real quick, 6
Yeah.
grams of citrulline, that's an efficacious dose,
Yep.
3.2 grams of beta alanine, also, 1 grams of taurine, uh, beetroot, red beetroot powder, sodium chloride, estrogen, L-tyrosine at 1 gram, caffeine at 376 milligrams. It's a good dose.
Well, that's
Uh,
right. That's the caffeine and hydrous too. There's some from natural sources in there too.
yeah, I'm gonna get
Yep.
to that part.
Yeah.
Then you got alpha GPC, guarana seed, yerba mate, L-theanine, bitter orange extract, with a total yield of caffeine on this thing at 420 milligrams per scoop.
Yep.
So if you're not a stim junkie, go with half, and you're still going to get some good results. But
Oh, for sure.
for the hardcore guys, go the full scoop. And
Yeah.
then
Well, that's the thing too, right? I think it's one of those products where, because there's factors involved, right? Like I always try to remind myself of the factors that would impact somebody's caffeine tolerance, right?
right,
And it was why when we first made the original Vice, we dosed it with the thought being that some people will be fine with 1 scoop and some people are going to need 2 scoops. So let's tweak that single scoop so that it can work for both, right?
hmm
With Triple X, you're not wrong that there's a group of people out there who would benefit from just doing half a scoop, right?
yeah,
Because 1 whole scoop would be too much. And there's a bunch of factors involved, right? It's when I say about caffeine tolerance, it's like you say caffeine tolerant, then it should be like, okay, well that says exactly what it is. But what I mean by that is almost like your caffeine comfort level, your familiarity with caffeine on a daily basis, right? Like so,
hmm
because I mean, technically you could be like 100 pounds, but hammer energy drinks and coffee all day, and you have
right,
a higher caffeine tolerance than somebody who's 300 pounds, right?
yeah,
But there's factors like your body weight is a factor, like drinking, your body weight can be a factor, right?
right,
Um, your general comfort utilizing caffeine on a regular basis, I think, is another important factor. Where like a single dose of a pre-workout, it shouldn't be one size fits all, right?
hmm
Like you're a 120-pound girl or a 300-pound dude, like 1 scoop for both of you, it shouldn't be like a one size fits all proposition.
right,
The other thing too that's an important factor is the time of day you train is should be
hmm
considered too, right? Because if you train at 5 a.m., 1 scoop, if you train at 5 a.m. and have decent caffeine tolerance, 1 scoop might not be a big deal for you at all. But if you train at 9 o'clock at night, all of a sudden, like a whole scoop, that might be too much at that time of day. And I get it. Like, I trained at night where I took Vice or I even took Vice Triple X. And, as it inches closer and closer to bedtime, you need to make those decisions wisely. So
hmm
we encourage people to sort of play with their dosing, you know what I mean,
yeah,
and find the sweet spot for you personally.
yeah. My favorite detail on this though is the pre-workout advisory.
Ah,
That
nice. See?
brings me back to the old cassette tapes
Yeah, man.
in the hip hop section. Yep,
Yeah,
it's
man. All
awesome,
right. Well,
dude.
I'm glad you picked up on that little detail, man. I
Yeah,
like
man.
that a lot as well, man. I'm proud. I'm kind of proud of those little things too. So
That's
you
awesome.
know you know where the inspiration comes from.
That
So
is that is has Greg written all over it.
yeah, man.
So I actually grabbed the wrong bottle when I put it in my shaker, so I actually mixed the two together. So I did
Okay.
Life 2. because I
Oh,
haven't taken
interesting.
this yet
Okay.
today.
All right. All right. Nice.
Um,
So you have a Vice Triple X Life combination going on.
I do, I do.
Interesting.
Um,
Interesting.
this is just a great greens powder. It tastes
Yeah.
good. It's got a bunch of good shit in it. Like, can't ask
Yeah,
for more
man.
out of greens
That
powder.
once again, right? Like, we're not gonna spend the whole cast plugging G
Yeah,
code stuff, but that's just another product, right? Where it's like the things you obviously need more of in your life, right?
right.
Like that's where the product came from, right? Like so many of us have gaps in our daily nutrition, and I personally am not eating enough vegetables and fruits on a regular basis. I wish I was.
Mhm.
I'm proud of myself when I did get my salad in and had some fruit and stuff, but it doesn't happen every day. So it's like, okay, how can how can I make something that sort of like fortifies my daily nutrition, right? So
Yeah.
it's organic greens and superfruits. It's got collagen, which is something that so many of us can benefit from if not for like the more cosmetic reasons of like anti-aging, hair, skin, and
Yep.
nails kind of stuff, but also your connective tissue, right? Your
Mhm.
joints, your ligaments, tendons benefit from collagen supplementation. It's got the ancient spice blend in it, which is super cool because I always say that those are the supplement 1.0 are the spices, right? Like 2,000 years ago,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
In BCE, those are the original supplements, right? But like, it's got cinnamon, cayenne, turmeric, ginger, green tea. Those are like ancient remedies,
Yep.
and have so many benefits. And then it's got just a Spectra blend, which is a boost of natural antioxidants. So, for immune health and just for your general daily nutrition, it's like a little insurance policy.
Right.
So it's something we're super proud of, and I feel like if I feel like this myself, and I feel like other people who use the product kind of feel this way, or even people who just use a green product in general. You
Mhm.
feel like you take it and you're like, oh, all right, I did something good today. I got that in. So I
Yeah.
check one box, one more
Yeah.
box to check.
Yeah. I mean, it truly is a supplement to your diet.
Yeah.
Right. And the best part about it for some people is going to be it's naturally flavored and you use
Yeah.
stevia
Yep.
as the sweetener.
Yep. Yep. No. Yeah. So no. So life. We don't use any artificial colors in anything we do, but we will use Splenda as a sweetener. We will use some artificial flavoring mixed in with natural flavoring in some of our other
Yep.
products. But life, because of the nature of what it is, we avoid all that stuff completely. So not
Mhm.
only does it have no dyes in it, like all our products, but it also is sweetened naturally and flavored naturally.
Right. Right. Yeah. Go get this product. It's
I
fucking
appreciate
awesome.
it. I appreciate it, bro.
All right. You ready to take a shot?
Yeah, man, I'm ready. Salud.
Cheers. I put it in the
Cheers.
Tupperware
Oh,
glass.
you actually got a shot. See, all right.
Yeah.
You came even more prepared. All right. That's
Next time.
production
Next time.
value right there. That
Yep.
glass is production value.
See, they actually taste good together.
No, that's awesome.
You can
Yeah.
tell.
I I do a thing where I mix Rise, which is our amino product. I mix Rise with Life, and we pretty much
Okay.
drink it like that all the time in my house.
Uh-huh.
And it's like kind of like supercharging. I'm like, all right, so now it's recovery and it's all that good stuff, and it's all mixed together. But yeah, no, it's interesting mixing the triple X with Life. It would be interesting, just on an anecdotal perspective, to like drink your pre-workout like that, right? Where it's you're drinking Vice Triple X. Just say, let's say your traditional pre-workout, but then you're taking a greens component with it. I wonder, if you were doing that for a while, if you would notice any kind of performance difference just from getting all those like sort of vitamins and minerals in their natural form.
Yeah. I'm gonna test it. I'll be
Yeah,
the lab rat.
nice, nice, nice. It's the only way to find out, right? We got to guinea
Exactly.
pig ourselves.
Do your kids take the life or
I do
and
my best. I
rise?
mean, my girls pretty much utilize everything that we make to some extent. So like sometimes they might have one capsule of Dream mixed in a little blend before they go to bed. We have G Code Kids, which I have to get you some of, which is
Okay.
it's almost like the Life product but made for kids mixed with like a sports drink.
Okay.
Um, they will have some Life mixed into stuff sometimes. Fuel or protein, they'll have that sometimes. Rise for sure, or amino product because it's kind of like it's got components that are similar to a Gatorade or a Powerade. So if it's a
Yep.
specific flavor that they like, they're cool drinking that. So if I feel it's a superior alternative to something else they might be consuming, or there's some way of like Trojan horsing it in with whatever
Yeah.
else they're doing, then we'll do that. Like my daughter Beans, who plays flag football and baseball. At the very least, one of the traditions before her football games is that she does a serving of the G code kids, and sometimes she'll have the Rise while she like during a game instead of having a Gatorade, she'll have
Right.
Rise. So
Okay.
yeah,
Do you have a
my
protein?
girls use that stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my kids on it.
Yeah.
Do you have a protein for kids?
No, we don't. We
Like
just have
diet?
our traditional fuel right now. We don't have
Okay.
anything made specifically for kids.
Which
The
kids could have.
first foray into that sort of market and demographic was creating the kids product, and that's it's funny because that's like something we could do better in terms of promoting and making people aware of. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's it's funny because like your eye is often fixed on certain specific products and trying to make headway in consumer imaginations with specific stuff that you take your eye off of some of the other stuff you do. So like for example, like it should have clicked for me all like, oh, we need to get Mike some kids and because Mike has kids and they're
Yeah.
athletic and they're active and all that and didn't even occur to me, so that's proof that we could spend more time drawing people to a product like that because I think it has tremendous benefit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big market too with
I
the way
agree.
kids the way parents want their kids to perform in
Yeah, oh
athletics, right?
for sure, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You want to dive into Rushmore?
Man, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm in.
Top four. This week
I'm
we're
in.
going to do cheat meals. Now, quote unquote cheat meals,
Yeah.
because I don't know about you. I don't believe in calling things a cheat because it
Okay.
sounds like you're doing something wrong,
Right.
right? Where food is food.
Yes.
You don't want to eat there's certain things you don't want to eat all the time,
Yep.
but there's nothing you're going to eat and you're going to die from one serving of it, right? So
No,
why
for sure.
demonize things? But this would be anything that is not in your regular weekly diet.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, like my approach to the whole thing in terms of cheap foods and stuff, like it's almost a case by case and a day by day basis, right? Like if I'm locked in a good way and I'm eating properly and I'm eating enough, which is one of the big things for me, right? If I'm locked in, I'm eating properly. I'm also eating enough calories over the course of the day. Monday through Saturday, I try to avoid cheat meals,
Mhm.
right? And then Sunday, we tend to eat what we want, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of like how we've done it in my house for a long time, right? So, on a day-to-day basis, I'll avoid a lot of the stuff that I really really enjoy. With the idea being, in terms of cheap foods, I try to stay on track, right? Try to keep things from going off the rails, right? On a daily basis, and just eat the foods that I'm supposed to eat, and hopefully eat enough of them to where I don't find myself like in a deep caloric deficit at 10 o'clock at night. And then I'm
Right,
like,
right.
all right, well, because a lot of time I do it and I'm like, all right, well, I'm making a milkshake because fuck it.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
You
I
need the
find
calories.
myself there sometimes because I'm like, oh man, it's 10 o'clock and I've eaten 2,100 calories. Like what's going, and I've
Yeah.
done 20,000 steps and I lifted and all this shit and I've eaten, I'm eating like a ballerina. That's
Right.
unacceptable, right? So like I
Yeah.
find myself there sometimes and then it just is what it is. But if I'm eating properly and getting enough calories on a regular basis, this stuff would be generally put off till a Sunday for me.
Right. Okay.
On a
Yeah,
regular day.
one of my buddies I used to work with, this guy Darren, when I was over at Muscle and Fitness, he
Yeah.
was a huge foodie. And the
Yeah.
guy, like when we went on trips, like we went to the Arnold, we went to Vegas or whatever, he would search out, the best restaurants he could find or the most famous ones and would just pig out every time. And this is like, I'm in my late 20s at the time trying to
Right.
stay focused on a diet. And
Yeah,
asking
sure.
him, like, bro, don't you feel like garbage after you do all this stuff?
Yeah.
He's like, bro, you only get so many meals in your life. He's like, make them count. He's like, if I'm out and there's a good restaurant, I'm going to order whatever I want. When I'm back at
Yeah.
home, I'll have chicken and rice.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a great perspective, man, too. And it's the other thing too is like the way I've always looked at it is like these cheat meal foods that we love and look forward to, right? Like, eating's one of the joys of life, obviously, right? And to deny yourself that without a good specific reason. Like it's one thing if you're like dieting for a competition. It's one thing if you are trying to make weight for a fight. It's one thing if you're if you have health issues that are impacted by your daily nutrition and you really have to keep that stuff in check, whether it's your you're dealing with obesity or diabetes or things like this. Obviously that goes without saying. But if you're a generally healthy and very active person, to me, like these foods are things to be earned.
Right.
And if they're earned, then to me, there's no guilt involved
Mhm.
because I earned it by doing all the things I'm supposed to do and by eating the way I'm supposed to eat. And I'm not saying that like that concept isn't like disordered. It might be, where you're all of a sudden food is the junk food is stuff that you earn. Like, like I don't know if that's the right way of turning it into a reward or whatever. Like, I don't
Right,
know if
right.
that's disordered eating. It might be, but like it's worked for me so far.
Yeah.
So like I'm cool with it. Um, but I try to make sure that my relationship with food isn't unhealthy. So it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
Like I
same.
said, food eating is one of the joys of life. So like to deny yourself the really awesome stuff all the time
Right.
sucks.
No
Like
joy.
like I
Stupid.
said, earn it with your training, earn it with your activity levels, and it shouldn't
Right.
be an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
I'll go first. My
Okay.
first one, and you have to be from the Northeast to understand this,
Okay.
but an everything bagel with veggie cream cheese.
Nice.
And here's why, because they're
Yep.
awesome. I crave them all the time.
Yep.
And then after I eat it, I feel like fucking garbage
Okay.
without fail. Because it's just
Really?
carbs and fats, like a ton of carbs, fast
Yeah.
digesting carbs and fat. And
Now what if you ate that with eggs? Would you still feel like shit?
no, I'd probably be fine, but I usually
Okay,
don't.
so
I
just
usually
in
don't.
isolation by itself.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But
I
it's
mean, that's
not.
a good one, man. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I've never like I feel like I've been lucky to not have like a really negative relationship with carbs.
Hmm.
So like in general, like if I ate a bagel, like it wouldn't feel like a cheat to me. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like I usually have eggs at some point every day. And when I do, sometimes I'll have it with like toast or a bagel or whatever. And
Yeah.
I don't really see that as like cheating. Um, but I get it though. I get it. Yeah, the bagel with cream cheese is incredible. So
Yeah. Yeah.
all
I'm
right, I'll
talking
keep
like
it.
from a good bagel shop, like a big one,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
like
yeah,
tons of cream cheese on it, and
yeah,
it's
yeah. Oh
disgusting.
yeah,
But
man. It's wild, right? Like where some places like because like if I made a bagel at home
it's different.
and I
Yeah.
put cream cheese on it, I would like put some on, but like sometimes you go and it's like they put a block of cream cheese
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the bagel, right? Where it's like literally the meat of the sandwich, as
Right.
opposed to like the butter on the bread. It's the meat of
Yep.
the sandwich. It's like wow,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean you get like 500 calories from the cream cheese on that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. But it's good though. It's really good.
Yeah. It is.
Um, all right, so I'm gonna keep it circular and baked, and
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Krispy Kreme donuts.
Okay.
Or like that's like I'll get with some of these things I'll get specific because I'm like it's not just any donut because if you gave me Dunkin' Donuts, if like here's the thing, if it was a Wednesday and you and I were traveling somewhere and we went and trained and ate healthy and had our shit together all day and there was a Dunkin' Donuts and you're like, yo man, you want to get some donuts? I'd be like, nah man, fuck that, I'm not eating Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
But if that identical scenario happened and there was a Krispy Kreme that we stumbled upon, I might be like,
Mhm. Right.
all right, I might be convinced. You might be able to talk me into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like my favorite donuts, and they're not like super common. Like you don't see them everywhere or whatever. So if I find myself somewhere where I can get some, um, that's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. That falls into the if you see it, you have to get it because you don't
Yeah,
see it enough, right?
right,
Especially
exactly.
post workout. That's not terrible post
No, I
workout.
mean that's it. And like you said, man, it's not one meal, right? It's are you gonna eat a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts every day for a couple of years? All right, well then we might run into some
Now it's a
problems,
problem.
right?
Yeah.
Are you gonna freak out and eat six of them in one shot and then not have them for 6 months? All right, well that's a different story. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's kind of cool that they aren't super common and that there's not one around the corner from me because it keeps me from eating them all the time, but then two, it also keeps it special, right?
Mhm.
It keeps it special. Like I can refer to that. I'll refer to that with another thing on my cheat list. But it's like if it's super accessible and you can just get it all the time, whenever, then all of a sudden it's not extraordinary anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Okay.
that's my perspective
That's
on
a
it.
good one.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, my second is Nutella.
Okay,
I could eat a jar of that
bro,
easily.
that's
Like,
very popular in my house too.
yeah, I kept it out of the house for the longest time. And then I had kids and they
Right,
like Nutella. So
for sure.
I'm not going to deny them that because I have an eating disorder. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's like one of those things I could go overboard real quick. And it's again carbs and fats.
What do you like it on the most?
Nothing. Just a spoon.
Wow. Okay. All right. All right. See, I would say I think Nutella's incredible, but Nutella on like a waffle is
Yep.
like insane.
Hmm.
That's one of my favorites. One of my favorites. Yeah. And like, all right. So like in my house, all right. So all right. Finish Nutella. Talk to me about Nutella though. Do you have any kind of Nutella backstory? Like, how did you come across it?
I think remember those I always was into those like the Rocher things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ferrero
Yeah.
Rocher.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how you
Ferrero
say it.
Rocher. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And then somebody brought Nutella. I don't know if it was my mom or like my roommate in college, and I
Right.
realized that's what's inside of those things
Yeah.
in its purest form. Yeah. Just I don't know. I can't. It's too good. I will. I'll buy like the Kodiak cake waffles,
Yeah.
the protein ones, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do one of those with peanut butter on top, and then stack it with another one with a little bit of Nutella on top. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Yeah, Nutella um, is amazing, and something that I always remember is that Kobe Bryant grew up in Italy, right?
Hmm.
Like for a portion of his youth, his dad played ball in Europe, and he grew up in Italy, right? And when Kobe was like first in the NBA, one of his first sponsors was Nutella.
Okay.
Did you ever see that? Like he was
No,
on
I gotta look it up.
Kobe at like 20 years old was on the Nutella label. Like
Uh huh.
that's something worth Googling. But
Okay.
but yeah, like before Nutella was super popular in the States, it was super popular in Europe.
Hmm.
And like he grew up eating it, whereas like you and I at that time might not even have encountered it.
Right.
Um, and then like that was one of the first companies that sponsored him, and I would assume, I always assumed, I was like, oh, it's because he's got that European background where he grew up over there. So like
Yeah, it makes sense.
the connection made sense. But yeah, it's funny. So all right, so I'll take it. I'll take it as a segue to
Okay.
my second, which is French toast. Right
Okay. Good one.
now, I'll say like it could be. I have a place in my heart for pancakes and for waffles and anything like that. But French toast is probably my favorite. In my house though, like it's on a semi-regular basis. The Sunday morning breakfast will be
Hmm.
French toast. But when Tara makes French toast, even though I like it like kind of OG style, right, with just like butter and syrup on it, um, with my girls, they break out the Nutella
Okay.
also, and they break out cookie butter. I don't know if you've had that.
Yeah, I have.
Okay,
That's also
so like
dangerous.
right, so there's like three possible toppings
Hmm.
for French toast or pancakes or waffles in my house. It's syrup as the standard, but then if things go really sideways, as they tend to do, it could be Nutella or it could be cookie butter also. So
Okay.
yeah, I love French toast, man. Something about those flavors together. Like it doesn't even have to be fancy. And like, you know, I've had really good like gourmet style French toast, and I've had um IHOP. I love IHOP or Waffle House or that kind of stuff. I love those places also. But yeah, just like traditional homemade French toast on the griddle, like is to me is as good as it gets. Like that's something I look forward to. And like it's one of those things that if I've really had my shit together and I've gone 6 days where I'm eating on point and my sugar from any kind of added sources is pretty low all
Hmm.
week. When that Sunday morning comes around, French toast comes around, it's like, oh
Okay.
man, it's something I get pumped for. So yeah,
Yeah, you deserve that.
that's a good one. That's a
And
good
then,
one.
so are you doing like full sugar maple syrup
Yeah,
on that? Okay.
yeah. And I'm not like the fanciest dude either. I'll do Aunt Jemima syrup too. Like I like all that. Like there's a
Yeah.
butter light Aunt Jemima is banging. Like I love that
Yep.
too. So like,
Yeah, I use that.
um, yeah, that stuff's awesome. So like, and I know like you'd be much better off having the real maple syrup and all that. But I'm not
It's
that.
like 20 times the cost though. It's
Oh
crazy.
my god, you ain't lying, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I know it's the good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but dude, like $15 for a thing of syrup. It's what?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's
Crazy.
still, I mean, there's just as much sugar. It's different sources, but
Right. That's it. That's it. Right.
it's
The
a little bit
one's
of
more
sugar.
like processed and less natural, but it ultimately ends. If you're the type who only pays attention to the macros, it's pretty much the same.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, French toast is good. That's another one. Like I feel like that type of stuff, just my blood sugar goes nuts.
Yeah.
if I eat something like that, but I'm not combining it with like scrambled eggs, like you said, or another
Right.
fat
Right.
source.
Right.
Just eating
Yeah.
straight sugar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are certain things like you talking about the Nutella, right? Like, um, and it's just is what it is, right? But maybe like we're talking about it, right? Like, so if Tara makes French toast, right? She'll just use like regular bread, whatever. But
Mhm.
she'll typically use, you know, because she makes a lot of it for all of us, probably like 5 eggs, good quality eggs, and like Fairlife milk in the batter that you make the
Okay.
toast in, right?
Yep.
So like I know, like it is what it is, but if you're really looking at it, right, like that's got it's more nutrient dense than like an
Right.
Eggo waffle, right?
Yep.
So like you're getting some egg in there, you're getting the milk in there, right? So like for example, if I have like 6 slices of French toast, right, or I have a few Eggo waffles with Nutella, I feel the Eggo waffles with Nutella, like you're talking about that like blood sugar level where it's like,
Uh-huh.
whoa, like where it's
Yeah.
like you're feeling it and you feel yourself crash and you don't feel
Yep.
great. I feel
Yep.
it much more with the waffles and Nutella than I do with the French
Okay.
toast. And I think it's because there's those other components in there that are making it a little bit more like substantial,
Yeah.
you know?
Maybe that's what I got to do. Start adding that stuff in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I think your body just tends to tolerate it better. I mean, dude, it's like anything, right? Like I'll hear of people who for example, right, like the pre-workout snacks, right?
Uh-huh.
Where there's like, there's all lifters come up with every excuse in the world, me being one of them, right? Come up with every excuse in the world to have like some kind of pre-workout snack, right?
Uh-huh.
And like, you know, when it's time for that kind of thing, right? And like you give me the option between like a muffin or like straight up candy,
Hmm.
I'm gonna opt for the muffin just because the muffin is a little bit more substantial and
Yeah.
it's not just like a shot of insulin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it would be if you just had a bag of Skittles. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? No disrespect to beast mode, right? Like I know Marshawn had the Skittles on the sideline, right? But I would much rather opt for like something that has a little bit more to it that my body's going to
Yeah.
digest a little slower than a handful of gummy bears.
Right.
Just because I feel like, in terms of how your blood sugar is going to react and how your body's going to tolerate that thing, I would opt for the thing that digests a little slower,
Hmm.
as opposed to the thing that's just like immediately in your bloodstream, and then you're setting yourself up for that crash. You
Yeah.
know,
And I think with candy, that would be better if you're going to do it like intra workout.
right?
Maybe
That
just
makes sense. Sure,
when you're
sure.
dragging
Like
ass.
the same way a runner would, right? The same way
Yeah.
like a distance runner would. Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing an intra workout and it's like a sustained thing, and you're having a
Mhm.
couple of gummy bears.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're on like you're on a watch, you're on a stopwatch, and you're having a few gummy bears every couple minutes. And you're doing it over the course of your workout as opposed to throwing a bunch in your face and then whatever happens happens.
Yeah. Then you're going to crash hard.
Especially in a longer workout, a higher rep workout, more of those marathon type workouts where the strategies of a distance runner make sense for a lifter, for sure,
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. I don't have a good segue for the next one from that, but mine is McDonald's double cheeseburger.
Oh,
And
a McDonald's double cheeseburger.
McDonald's
Oh,
double
okay,
cheeseburger.
okay,
Here's why. Like when I met my wife, she was a vegetarian and like very anti fast food.
yeah,
Like for years, I had never gone to McDonald's, and prior to that, in high school, you're there all the time because it's
for
cheap.
sure,
Um, and now my kids, like I had my kids try it out because after a sports game, they're hungry as hell, and
of
I
course,
need something quick.
of course,
So we started going there again. I mean, maybe once a month or
yeah,
whatever. But like, I don't know, the double cheeseburgers are fucking awesome there.
they
They
are.
like if you went to a fancy restaurant, you didn't know anything about McDonald's, and they gave you a McDonald's double cheeseburger, you think it
Yeah,
was awesome, right?
oh yeah, for sure. Right, if it just came out on a nice plate,
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
But then you look at like the fat and the sodium and the carbs and that, it's not great. Like you're not going to eat that every day. It's not the most terrible thing, but I could throw down 4 or 5 of those.
Oh, for sure, and like McDonald's, like to me, it's like everything. Like back in the day when I used to think of like cheap,
Mhm.
tasty, bulking foods.
Yep.
Like one that I always went to was the McDonald's hamburger, right? The plain McDonald's hamburger, right?
Yeah.
And I do it at the time too. They were like 89 cents or some
Yep.
shit that was awesome, or like $1.09 or whatever, right? And you get 5 of those, and then all of a sudden you're getting like 75 grams of
Yeah.
protein, right?
Yep.
And it tastes amazing. And you look at the macros and it's not the worst, right? And it was like, oh well, I just spent $5 and I got 4 hamburgers and a Diet Coke,
Yeah.
and I got 50 grams of protein, and it tasted great and it digested fine and all that, right? Like there are worse options. Like you're saying, the double cheeseburger. I think like if you asked me my favorite, I would go with like the quarter pounder with cheese.
Okay.
From
More meat,
McDonald's, I
right?
think is awesome.
Yeah.
Also, and taste, quality, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that,
Mhm.
like for sure.
Yeah.
I got no problem with McDonald's, man, at all. Like but not. But once again, right? What were we talking here? I wouldn't eat McDonald's every day.
No.
There was a point in my life where I would because I was trying to get huge and I needed calories.
Yep.
But at this point, I wouldn't obviously. And you treat it more as a treat.
Yeah.
And then you appreciate it so much more. But yeah, no, I dig it. I dig it. That's a good one.
And I even think nowadays, like they've changed a lot of like the oil they fry in and the practices with preparing the food. So I think it's a
Yeah,
little bit healthier than what we had growing up.
probably.
But still a lot of sodium and shit. But if you don't eat it every day, it's fine.
Well, I think it's funny, right? I think that it's almost like things go in phases and stages, like music, right? I think that probably when we were kids, it was the quality was pretty decent,
Okay.
and then like as we became like teenagers into our 20s, it was trash.
Uh-huh.
And the worst possible, cheapest ingredients possible. And then there was like an uproar in society, and there's more people paying attention to that kind of stuff. So they were forced to try to make it, make better choices in terms of the ingredients. And now maybe it's getting a little better, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, for sure. It's like anything, right? It's like where things that once contained regular sugar now have high fructose corn syrup, right? And then it's like, all right, now they're getting rid of the high fructose corn syrup and they're bringing the sugar back, right? Just for example, whether you think that matters or not, but just the perception of quality,
Yeah.
right? What's better for you? What's the better of the two options, even if the one is cheaper than the other? Now some of these corporations being forced to choose the
Right.
better of the two options because people demand it,
Yeah.
for
And that's a
sure.
good thing.
Yeah, always a good thing. Always a good thing. That
What's
was
your
a good
third?
one. That makes me want to come up with a good fast food one. There's like something I like from every fast food place. If I'm honest, like there's
So
no
yeah,
fast
same with
food,
me. Same with me.
no fast food place I completely turn my nose up at and say, oh, there's nothing there that I can find that I like.
No.
So yeah, that's a tough one. All right, so I'll give you one, but it's more specific. Just like you were saying, pizza.
Okay.
But pizza from my favorite place, right? So I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very specific kind of pizza there, right? It's like a Sicilian cut of pizza. It's kind of got like a sweet sort of oniony sauce. Instead of pies, they call them trays. Instead of
Okay.
slices, they call them cuts. And then the cheese blend they use is like traditional, like mozzarella, maybe with provolone and whatnot mixed in, but they use American in the cheese too. So it's got like a
Ooh,
very
right.
creamy melt to it.
Mm-hmm.
And bro, like it's my favorite pizza in the whole world. There's probably at least a dozen, probably, and a dozen that I don't even know of places back home where they make a similar style. And I would eat that. I would choose that over any pizza in the world. So when I say that, I don't say like just because I joke around and I say like the place that I live is a little bit of like an ethnic food desert,
Uh-huh.
right? So like you can't get like halal or Vietnamese, but there's 85 mediocre pizza places, right?
Same with here. Same.
So
Same
when I
exact
say
thing.
pizza, I mean my favorite pizza, the best pizza. I would always choose that, always.
Okay.
But if you're just saying pizza in general, a lot of time I could take it or leave it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Okay.
if I had to choose a cheat meal from anywhere, I would get the pizza from the Scranton area
Okay.
immediately.
All right.
And I know that like Brooklyn has some amazing places. I know like Connecticut has some amazing places, like renowned, legendary places. But I'd say this would take like the Pepsi challenge with any.
What's the name of the place?
So there's multiple places, right? There's a stop. So one of the Scranton suburbs is called Old Forge, Pennsylvania,
Yep.
and that has a style of pizza that's like like for foodies, like your buddy Darren who worked with the
Yeah.
Muscle Fitness, like he probably knows what that means because like if you investigate the best pizza in the country, like that'll come up in the conversation.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a place called Green Ridge Pizza, which I grew up eating, but then there's like 100 other ones. There's Calarusso's. There's Angelo's, there's Arcaro's, there's like a million old world Italian hole in the wall places that all make like a similar style of pizza, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. And it's pretty much the only place that you can find something like it. Every summer for Labor Day weekend, there's an Italian festival in Scranton, and we take the girls back there and basically just eat like 20,000 calories a day for that whole weekend, and a lot of it's pizza because it's just that good. You know?
All right, I like that, and I'm of the thought that I don't know that New York necessarily has the best pizza, depending on what your taste is.
Sure.
I think there's awesome pizza in Pennsylvania. I've had good pizza in Florida. You know,
Yeah.
if it's a good restaurant and they're actually authentic in the way they're making pizza, it's going to be good.
For sure. And right, and it's like, is there love put into making the pizza? Like,
Exactly.
and are they like making decisions about really trying to make something special? And like, so when I say that, like, and I talk about like there being 85 mediocre pizza places, there's like a place called Fusaro's in the area that I live in, and they make good stuff. Like it's good pizza. You know, so it's certainly quality. And if you're motivated to find it, you can find really good pizza everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of you know, what you're into specifically. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, if you ask me on a cheat meal level, I say, oh, like a cheat meal, I wouldn't just say pizza, but if I could get the specific pizza,
That
I'm in
one.
every time.
Okay.
You know?
All right. I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. My last one
Yeah.
is peanut butter pie
Okay.
from like a good restaurant.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with peanut butter, and I can never say that's ever a cheat meal because it's one of the best foods on the planet.
Yeah.
But back when I was going to the Olympia and going to different trade shows and stuff, and like you're going out to dinner a lot,
Yeah.
and I would everybody always wanted to order dessert, and I never did because I don't like it. I'd rather just order another steak,
Right. Sure.
unless they had peanut butter pie on the menu. That without fail, I would order that. And then my
Yeah.
colleague Dara, you remember Dara, right?
Of course, she's the best.
Yeah. She would choose restaurants for dinner based on whether or not they had peanut butter pie.
It
So
sounds
I
like her,
ordered
man.
dinner.
She's a sweetheart. She'd be the type to do that for sure.
Yeah. So I got to go with that one because there's memories involved.
I remember my aunt growing up would make a peanut butter pie, simple one, but like graham cracker crust, and it was like some blend of like Cool Whip and peanut butter, and it was incredible, bro. Like amazing. So it brings back memories, you saying that, because that's awesome. Like that's such a good dessert, and it's like one of those like low key underrated desserts that you don't hear a lot about, but it's awesome.
Yeah, my wife will make it for me every time it's my birthday, and I'm the only one who likes it in the family. I was like, you don't have to do that. Like, get an ice cream cake; we'll be fine.
Yeah. No, but it's like it's like my mom. I joke around and say like how my mom or even Tara's condition at this point. It's like if it's something that I really love, it's like you almost got to like make one for Greg and then one for everybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like that's what it should be. It's like, all right, get an ice cream cake for everybody else, and the peanut butter pie for Mike, and then he's good.
That's how it goes.
Seriously. Yeah. All right. So on the strength of that, man, I will go. Here's the thing. I love baked goods in general, right? Like, so I love like carrot cake, and I already said Krispy Kreme, and I love like all that kind of stuff. But like, just keep it simple. Like cookies and milk are awesome. So like if I had just like really good, like it doesn't even have to be really good if I'm honest, but just like a good chocolate chip cookie and milk, like I'll crush that every day of the week. Like that's perfection to me. Like and it could be homemade ones, or like it could be Chips Ahoy, and it doesn't even have to be chocolate chip, it could be Oreos or whatever. But I like just the cookies and milk. I'm like a big kid when it comes to that. So like if you made me choose like a low maintenance, easy dessert that wasn't complicated, like I'll take, just like I would do like a pint of Ben and Jerry's or something like that. I would easily do cookies and milk, and I'd be straight. You know what I mean?
Do you have a secret like chocolate chip cookie recipe, or does Tara that you use for this?
What's funny is that there is a recipe. If I had to choose like my favorite cookie recipe, there is a cookie recipe that when I was in the Universal days, a girl, Michelle, that was a sweetheart that I worked with, brought in these cookies one time, and I was like, yo, that is the most unique and amazing chocolate chip cookie I've ever had. And from that point forward, like I was like, what's the recipe? Giving it to my mom, giving it to Tara immediately to make sure that these are prepared in my life at certain times, that these are in the wheelhouse of the bakers in my life. Yeah, it's like a chocolate chip cookie, but one of the components of it is cake batter, cake mix.
Okay.
So like it's a chocolate chip, traditional chocolate chip cookie, except instead of like using flour, you would be using like yellow cake mix.
I'm writing
So
this
it
down.
has like a cakey kind of texture to it. So like some of like that buttery goodness you get from cake is now
Yep.
sort of built into the chocolate chip cookie. So
All right. I gotta look
um,
that up. I like this
yeah,
idea.
I'll find it for you and I'll send it to you and you see what I'm talking about. But yeah, those are amazing, amazing.
All right. I like that. What are your thoughts on Oreos while we're on
Oh,
cookies?
I love
Dude,
them.
there's so many different amazing flavors. Like I gotta stay out
Yeah,
of that aisle of the grocery store.
I love the OG, and then I'm open to trying any of the other ones. I even think the golden ones are good. Like I like vanilla stuff too, so I
Yep.
like even think the golden ones are good. And then, I'm the type who likes like things that have Oreos in it. So like,
Uh-huh.
anything cookies and cream or any kind of baked good that incorporates Oreos, I'm in.
Okay.
How are
All right.
you?
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Another one. It's like a Nutella. Like I kept it out of the house on purpose.
yeah.
Had kids. Now they like Oreos. Now it's back in the house.
Of
So I
course
gotta
they
just
do. Yeah, for
walk
sure.
past that cabinet.
Yeah, for sure. Your kids have good taste.
Yeah. um, let's jump into the first article.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see if I can get this up on the screen.
Yep.
Ryan Garcia. Here we go. All right, you see that? Cool.
Yep.
Um, is that the right one? Hold on, let me change this out real quick. Um, hmm, 1 second. There it is. Okay. So have you seen this article?
I have seen the article and I was sort of following that story as well. Yeah.
Okay, so Ryan Garcia, who just came off a win, I think a couple weeks ago or last week, got popped for using PEDs. Um,
An upset victory.
yep, yep.
Yeah. Beat
Um,
an undefeated fighter who was the heavy favorite.
yeah,
Yeah.
Haney, right? What's Devin Haney?
Devin Haney. Yep.
So his drug test came back, I guess, from he took one pre-post, and there were traces of Ostarine,
Yep.
the SARM, and
Yep.
also 9-norandrosterone or
Some kind of
testosterone.
19 nor
Yeah, 19 nor.
which back in the day too, like in the andro days, the 19 nor andros were also available over the counter. They're like relatives of Deca.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he is denying the allegations against him, saying, "I've never taken a steroid. I wouldn't do that. I can barely, keep to my supplement regimen." And he recently, and this is the part where I think the industry gets brought into it.
Sure.
He's trying to pin it on a supplement that he took. And I'll pop this up right here. I think it's one you've probably seen before. Um, this ashwagandha root by
Interesting. Okay.
Gaia Herbs, I think it is.
Yeah.
Saying that that's the only supplement he takes. That must have been what it was. And I mean, these guys do this a lot where
Oh, of
they'll blame a
course.
supplement for
Of course.
PEDs. But I read there was a comment section. I think this was posted on Facebook or something, and the majority of people on that comment section were saying, it'd be easy for Ostarine to get into dietary supplements. They're produced all by the same manufacturer in the same warehouses. And I'm like, I don't think so. Ostarine's right. I mean, you would know more than I would because you have a manufacturer, but I
Right.
don't think there's Ostarine floating around these warehouses. Are they? Are there?
No, no, I would. This is I mean, obviously, mine is an informed view, but only so
Mhm,
much so because if I'm honest, I've never dabbled in SARMs personally, and I also haven't ever explored them as something for our brand.
mhm.
That said, I know how just dealing with supplement store owners and vendors in general, I know how popular they are
Yep.
in terms of products that sell, products that have a draw, products that have good margins built in where they can be purchased inexpensively by vendors. They can be made inexpensively by manufacturers, and they can be sold for a lot to consumers
Mhm.
because they're essentially molecularly so close to steroids,
Yeah.
to oral steroids, and then they so they're effective. So people are willing to pay a decent price for them. So the markup
Right.
margin on them are awesome.
Mhm.
Um, so here's what I know: the manufacturers that we deal with who make the products that we make don't make anything like that.
Right.
So I can't say that that's always the case for every contract manufacturer. That every contract manufacturer that makes pre-workouts and aminos, none of them make SARMs. Like I can't say that, but I can say that it's usually two different disciplines is the wrong word, but it's two different like areas of expertise,
Yeah.
and two different things that people are creating. So like I think that in terms of like cross contamination in manufacturing, I don't think that a company I don't a company like the company that made that ashwagandha, I'd be shocked if the company that made that ashwagandha is working with a manufacturer that's also producing SARMs.
Right.
That's my guess.
And they
Um,
came out and said they're like, no, this isn't us whatsoever. We don't
yeah,
touch SARMs. Our manufacturer doesn't touch SARMs.
I believe that. I take their
Yeah.
word for it.
Yeah.
I would assume that that's not the case, um, and wouldn't be the case in most instances.
Mhm.
If we're talking about like we've had this conversation before. If we're talking about like gray market um, pre-workouts that have some amphetamine analogs in them, where the label looks a little sketchy and
Yep.
the supplement facts panel isn't by the book and that sort of stuff, where it's a little bit more of like an outlaw manufacturer where they don't really care about that kind of stuff and they're not necessarily trying to adhere to GMPs or not worried about FDA, you know, interference or anything like or oversight or anything like that. Then in those cases, then maybe there's a place out there that's running pre-workouts and running SARMs in on two production lines next to each other. But I don't believe that to be the case in terms of uh, most companies making supplements in like an above the board kind of way. I don't
Right.
think they're going to be dealing with contract manufacturers that are making SARMs also.
Mhm.
I almost feel like if it was a brand, when I say mainstream, I don't even mean like mainstream, like everybody knows it, knows the name of the brand. But if it was a circumstance where there's a brand that makes pre workouts, aminos, protein, and that kind of stuff, but then also sells SARMs, I would generally assume that they're getting those products from two different manufacturers.
Mhm.
There's one manufacturer who's making the traditional stuff, and then there's another company that they're getting the SARMs from. And
Right.
those companies that they're getting the SARMs from, like you hear people say like trend that somebody made in their bathtub.
Yep. Yep.
I feel like that about SARMs, somewhat that like
Mhm.
you're probably just kind of like getting Chinese raw materials,
Yep.
and then they're being put together wherever they're being put together, and you just got to kind of take their word for it that you're getting what they're saying is in the bottle, but you really have no way of knowing.
Right. And
That's
I
like
guess the
the
only thing that could
chain of
happen.
custody or the paper trail.
Yeah.
Not to get too legal with it, right? But like the thought that like you're going to buy that from the supplement shop, and then let's say for example that Ryan Garcia went and bought a SARM from a supplement shop, and let's just say he took it and didn't even realize what it was, and
Mhm.
he just thought he was taking. Somebody said, "Oh, that you think ashwagandha is good? This stuff's even better."
Right.
He
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
bought it, went home and took it, and then he's like, "Man, I just failed this drug test. Where did this come from?" Like I
Mhm.
don't know how easy getting that information will be for him
Right.
in that situation. Trying to trace it back to where it was made and then where it was made got the raw materials from and all that stuff. Like I feel like that could be complicated with some of these source companies.
Yeah. I think the only way, I mean, maybe at the ingredient manufacturer in China, they were also making it, but even
Right.
then, like, I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't seem like a natural company selling ashwagandha would go through that same
You wouldn't think so.
manufacturer, right?
No, you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think so. And the Ryan Garcia thing too. Like he really stepped up in a big moment and beat a good fighter, and it was a big
Mhm.
deal.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of weirdness going on around it, right? Like he didn't make weight, and he was like,
He was
I don't
acting
know if he
weird,
was
right?
like drinking a beer at the weigh-in, and he was like
Yeah.
acting wild, and then he failed the drug test. So it's like a lot, like he undermined like a massive boxing win with a
Right.
lot of like weirdness.
Being an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. And
Um,
I mean, maybe that was the master plan, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I guess I had read the 19 nor that they found. It was like trace amounts. You can actually pop for that if you eat too many organ meats from so I don't know if he actually took something or that was
No
what
kidding.
it was.
Yeah.
Um but the Ostarine, that's not coming from
Right.
anything
No.
natural, right?
No. That's
Um
interesting. That's interesting.
yeah, I
One more reason to eat organ meats.
exactly right. Um yeah, I think like if I were a coach and trainer for athletes, I don't know that I'd allow them to take anything, right?
No.
It's just this is what happens unless you do it
Right.
on purpose.
I mean, it's risky, but then again, like I don't
Unless
think I don't think that story's legit. Like,
no,
and
no.
that here's the thing. That's not even me saying that he's lying, but I don't think it came from the ashwagandha.
Mhm.
Like, so if you told me that like there's somebody in his camp who was sliding that into his vitamin regimen every day and he didn't know, or he was just taking it thinking it was something different than what it was, and like here's the thing, right? Here's the thing about a lot of this stuff that I always keep in mind. And I go back, man, to the original andro, ephedrine, right? Like even like GHB, right? Like I remember when I like was first starting to train seriously, and I was in college and I was using supplements, like meaning like I would go buy my protein every couple weeks and all
Yep.
that sort of stuff, right? I was really like it was my thing. Like it kind of took basketball's place, and now I was training and I was lifting, and that was my focus. And I went into this supplement shop that had opened up in South Jersey, coming home from Brigantine, going to Philly to school, and the owner came out and he said to me, "Hey man, you like to party?" And I'm like, "What, man?" Right? And he had a jug of this blue stuff, right? And I was like, "No, I'm good, man. Thanks." Right? So I was like, because he just weirded me out. I was like, "What is this dude trying to sell me?" Right? And uh, then, like weeks later, there's like an article in the newspaper about a date rape drug
Yep.
that's easily available from supplement stores. And my mom had the article, and she's like, "I know you're taking this." I'm like, "Ma, I swear to God, I'm not taking it." And I went to explain to her why I wasn't. And then like I had buddies who were natural, who didn't use anything shady or
Mhm.
above board or below board, who were using it to sleep before bed because it was supposed to help you sleep better. It was supposed to help
Yep.
with GH, growth hormone release, right?
Mhm.
Completely unbeknownst to them that it was like potentially a recreational drug, right? Like they didn't
Right.
even weren't even making that connection because it was just available at the supplement store, like all the other stuff that you took,
Yeah.
right? And I could easily see somebody not knowing, walking into a supplement store to buy some stuff to help them with their process, to get ready for the fight, to get ready for whatever, and taking a SARM and thinking themselves, well, they're just selling this at the supplement shop around the corner. Like it can't be illegal.
Mhm.
So they would just take, you know what I mean? Like I could see that kind of innocent um, association and decision being made, and you utilizing something and not even knowing. Now
Yeah.
I know there's millions of dollars on the line, so like you should be more careful about what you're putting in your body. I get that, but I could also see how it could happen, and how somebody could use a substance like that and not really intend on breaking any rules.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah, like you said, maybe it was like the kitchen sink fly by night supplement company. He took a pre-workout and it had trace amounts of Ostarine
Sure,
in it.
could be that. Could be that.
That
Could
was
be
like
that. And
think
like I said, I think that people will generally walk into a supplement store that sells their protein or sells their vitamins and make an assumption that everything that's being sold here is legal.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
as deeply as they think about it. Well, I'm
Yeah.
walking in a regular store here, right?
Right.
They're not going to sell drugs at the supermarket. So I'm assuming they're not going to sell drugs here at the place where I buy my protein powder, right? Like, and that might be the depth that they're thinking about it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, whatever they're selling here is legal for me to use.
Yeah.
And they're not thinking that, oh, well, product X, Y, or Z could have, illicit substances in it that could make me fail a drug test. Might never occur to them. You've
Yeah.
heard of people taking a pre-workout and then having like a random drug test at work and failing it.
Mhm.
And like, they had no thought in their mind. They're thinking to themselves, oh man, I take this thing before I go work out because I'm trying to be healthy,
Yeah.
right? Now I'm failing this drug test.
Right, for meth.
You know, it's like, totally innocent, and they don't realize the implications because they just
Yeah.
don't know. They just don't know better.
Yeah, you think about, like, back in the day, in the early 2000s, late 90s, like, how many people took drugs and didn't know it or didn't
Sure,
realize that's what it like, pro hormones. I took Andro in college.
of
I bought
course,
it at GNC, I think. I didn't know it was a
of course, bro.
pro hormone.
Everybody did. Everybody was serious about working out. Did
Yeah,
everybody because
yeah,
they didn't think of it as any different than creatine or protein. Oh
mhm,
yeah, this is just something else I can do that can help me with my workouts, help me with my goals. Never, like wasn't it extracted from pine bark or something? Like there was no thought
no,
that it could be something that was adjacent to steroids. Like nobody thought
yeah,
of that. It
yeah,
didn't even occur to anybody. You
yeah,
know,
and how many dudes are infertile now because they fucked with all that stuff,
I
you know?
mean, sure,
Test is
yeah, of
shut
course,
down and yeah.
of course, of
Um,
course,
I was, like, super naive up until probably I was about 30 about performance enhancing drugs and all
sure,
that stuff, you know. I still thought Kai Green got huge off of muscle meds, you know,
right, sure,
supplements, right?
sure, sure, sure,
So when Blackstone Labs first came out,
yeah,
it was gray area, you know, pro hormones. And they sent me a box filled with everything they had, like super generous to do that for me because I was at Muscle and Fitness at the time, and
sure,
you know I was friends with PJ and Aaron,
yeah,
and I had no idea what it was. So I
sure,
sent a picture to my buddy Darren again because he's got to be in his 50s now, but he had been in the industry for a long time, like
sure,
he had been around the block. I'm like, dude, should I take these? Like, what is this? The guys are saying I'm gonna blow up and get huge if I take these pills.
right,
And he's like, dude, those are steroids. Throw that shit away. He's like, if you
right,
want your liver to survive,
right,
you know.
sure.
And he said, he's like, dude, you're better off just finding a good dealer and getting the real stuff
The real
because
stuff,
you're
right,
gonna
sure.
fuck yourself up way worse by taking that stuff.
Right, sure, and like you would have never known. But as far
Right.
as you were concerned, right? You were getting this stuff from a trusted source. It was a company that you knew and had heard of
Hmm.
that made a bunch of traditional products also.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't like it might not even occur to you. You know what I mean? So like I don't even see that like entirely as being naive. It's like just a lot. It's almost like a logical assumption. Like so
Right.
that's why like just as easy as it is to imagine that the highest level athletes in the world will take any edge they can possibly get and are cheating to
Hmm.
win and they'll do whatever it takes, which is entirely possible at all times. I also believe in the benefit of the doubt and the possibility that people end up taking stuff, don't even think twice about it, and it
Yeah.
never even occurs to them, that oh shit, I'm gonna fail a drug test because of this, or this could damage my health. Doesn't even cross their mind because they're just it's just coming from the same source as the normal stuff that they take all the time,
Hmm.
you know? And
Yeah.
like that, and the case that you just made illustrates it perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
they were, I want to say that those at the time those weren't banned. So they weren't
right,
doing anything illegal, right? They were
right,
just
no, of course,
hooking me up with supplements.
right, of
I don't want
course,
to
of
shit
course.
talk those guys because they were
No,
super
no,
nice by
no,
doing that.
no, of course not.
Um,
And I get it, and it's like,
yeah.
I mean, dude, when I first started with Universal, it was like right when the first Andro ban happened.
Hmm.
Um, so they had still had some products that had like Andro and some of those norandros in them, and one test and some of those ingredients that as far as everybody concerned, were completely legal. And that was a legacy brand that, even at that time, had been around for
Yeah.
25 years, 30 years. And they were making a product like that because it didn't occur to them until the stuff got banned that there was anything wrong with it. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like, that's just an example. So, there are a lot of companies that were creating comparable products totally unknowing, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you think that way, then you think about the consumer on the other end of it, who's just buying products from brands that they know and trust. Half the time it wouldn't even cross their mind. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah. I mean, it's since cleaned up since then, but obviously in the Ryan Garcia thing, maybe not as much as it should have been.
right? Sure, sure. We'll never know
Um,
the real story, right? We'll
exactly.
what actually happened, how it
Yeah.
actually ended up in his piss test.
Right. Yeah. Let's hop into the last article.
Yep.
Where are we at? Here we go. All right, we had discussed this a little bit earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess Panera Bread had a caffeinated lemonade that they were selling called Charged Lemonade. Um, it had, I think, for like an extra large, which was, I don't know, 30, what was it, 30 ounces, was about 225 calories.
Right.
So, being in the fitness industry, that's not a lot of caffeine.
Right.
Yeah, 200 ounces of caffeine.
Right, 200
Or two,
milligrams,
two
what we're
milligrams of
saying is
caffeine.
spread,
Yeah, yeah,
spread out over 30 ounces, right? So we're
yeah,
looking
spread
at
out over
like
30 ounces.
almost like a liter beverage with 225 milligrams of caffeine or whatever.
Yeah, there we go. My brain just
Yeah,
stopped functioning.
yeah,
So I guess three people so far had this was the cause of death, according to their family and lawyers, was the caffeine content in this charged lemonade. All three, I believe, had heart problems prior to
sure.
this. They were born with them, or they developed later on. So probably shouldn't have been having caffeine. Um, and I guess the question is like, should they be able to go after Panera for putting caffeine in a lemonade? And then I think it goes down to consumer awareness of what you're putting in your body, because I have to assume somewhere either on the cup or on a sign they listed the caffeine content of this product, right? I would hope.
Yeah, that's interesting, man, because I feel like I was in Panera and I saw that, and like I think it's like Panera, at least when the last time I was there, they have like the fountain drinks where you fill your own cup.
Yep.
And I believe those are available right over there where the sodas are available, or in the iced tea, right? Like
Okay.
it's
Yep.
on a tap where you can fill it yourself. You don't necessarily have to pay them at the counter. They make it for you and then give it to you, right? Like they give you
Mhm.
a cup and you can go drink unlimited refills or whatever
Right.
beverage, right? And I was there and I believe I saw it. And the only thing that kept me from drinking it, if I'm completely honest, Mike, was that it had a lot of sugar in it.
Okay.
And I try to generally avoid beverages with sugar in them. Like I will always opt for a diet drink because if I'm gonna have sugar, I'd rather get it from
Yeah.
cookies
Yeah.
than from a drink, right? Um, so so the only thing that kept me from drinking it was the sugar content. I don't know. I knew that when I saw it, I realized it had caffeine in it. I don't know if I realized how much caffeine it had in it.
Mhm.
And here's where I don't know. Here's where the point of distinction is for me, right? 225 milligrams of caffeine compared to a pre-workout, compared to most energy drinks, is pretty mild, right? However, 225 milligrams of caffeine, even compared to like a Mountain Dew or a Diet Coke, is substantial,
Mhm.
right? Like 225 milligrams of caffeine is more caffeine than a Red Bull,
Right.
just for example, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of caffeine for like a mainstream person, right? And where like if you went and got a 16-ounce Starbucks. I can't tell you off the top of my head how much caffeine's in a 16-ounce Starbucks. We should probably I'll research it in real time, right? But you look something like that up, right? And you're trying to figure out, you know, off the top of your head, how much is in like a Starbucks coffee. When I say a Starbucks coffee, how much caffeine's in it, right? All right, so a 16-ounce blonde roast Starbucks has 360 milligrams of caffeine.
Okay.
It's a lot. 20-ounce Dunkin' has 270 milligrams of caffeine. Starbucks Pike Place, 310 milligrams of caffeine. So there's a lot of caffeine just in a Starbucks coffee, a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, right? Which is a pretty mainstream beverage.
Mhm.
That said, when I go to get a Starbucks coffee or I go to buy an energy drink, in my head I'm thinking, oh, this has caffeine in it. Decent amount of caffeine in it, right?
Mhm.
If I'm going to get a lemon, back to like the unknowing consumer,
Yeah.
I'm getting a lemonade, even if it says this lemonade is caffeinated, I'm not thinking to myself, this lemonade has as much caffeine in it as those coffees do, or as much as an energy drink does. I'm thinking, all right, this is gonna be like a Diet Coke
Mhm.
kind of caffeine situation. So while like 225 milligrams mixed over 30 ounces isn't like the end of the world by any means, I assume if you were like pounding it all day,
Yeah.
then I guess, if you were pounding it all day and you already have heart issues or some kind of, caffeine, an acute caffeine sensitivity, it's a lot,
Mhm.
so I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little torn on it.
Yeah.
What's your read?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't can they trace the caffeine consumption to the death?
right.
Like, you have a predisposed condition, there could be a chance that your heart gives out at any time.
Sure.
Did the caffeine cause it?
Right.
That's, I guess, the first thing. Do you have a lawsuit there?
Right.
Um, but I get your point. Like, if you say lemonade, you don't associate caffeine with it, and you
Right.
certainly don't associate 200 milligrams of it.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right. So it's like it would be the kind of thing that you would probably have if you're gonna put that much caffeine in something as like generally innocuous as lemonade. You probably have to kind of go out of your way to let people know how much is in it.
Mhm.
And then even it's funny because even when you say that, like you tell them how much is in it, that might not mean anything to them. You're like, all
Right.
right, so which is equal to 1 cup of coffee, or like you kind of have to spell it out for people. I think because in general, like if you just talk to somebody in the general public and you said 200 milligrams of caffeine, they'd either say, "Oh my God, that's so much caffeine," because they don't know, or
Uh-huh.
they'd say, "Is that a lot? I don't know." Right?
Right. Yeah.
You and I know this stuff so intimately that it's like, oh, that's not that bad, or whatever, right? Our response is, oh, whatever, or my response, which is, oh, that's not that bad, but it's a lot for like a mainstream lemonade.
Right.
Um, so whatever, but the real point to me is like, I don't know how practical it is to make the assumption that someone had a lethal dose of caffeine from that beverage,
Mhm.
because like, how much are we talking here? Like, if they drank a gallon of it, then okay, that's a lot of caffeine, right? That's a lot of caffeine, and I get it, especially if you have a heart issue. But are these people's heart issues so acute that 1 cup of that would be enough to kill them? Like,
Right.
I don't know. And if that's the case, then like, can anyone who's ever had a heart issue who had a Mountain Dew go and sue?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, so it's a tough thing to read. It's a
And
tough, tough thing
was
to
it
read. I
the
don't
caffeine
know.
or the sugar
Yeah,
too, right? Sugar
sure,
amps you up.
sure, sure. And I don't know if um, I don't know if Panera is liable in that situation. I don't know if it's fair to say that, but I do say that if you're going to put that much caffeine, relatively speaking, into something like a lemonade that you can just go on tap and drink as much of as you want,
Mhm.
then that's probably on you to educate them as to what is in there and what that means. Because technically, right, like you could go fill one of those up not knowing and hand it to your 5-year-old.
True.
And that's a
Yeah.
lot of, right? And you're just thinking, oh, I'm giving them lemonade. Or you're thinking, oh, I'm giving them lemonade and it has a little caffeine in it, but who cares? Well, what's it going to have?
Mhm.
20 milligrams of caffeine? Who cares? And then it turns out like, oh man, I just gave my kid like a Red Bull and he's 4 years old.
Right.
So it's like, you know, I think it's on them. It's incumbent upon them to sort of let you know what's in this.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's
and
half and half.
my mind always goes to, all right, they lose this lawsuit, government gets involved, thinks 225 milligrams caffeine is too much. Now you guys get screwed.
Yes,
And now your pre-workout can't have 420 milligrams,
right.
right?
Of course.
That's where these types of things always worry me. Even
Right.
with the Ryan Garcia thing, right? If
Right.
Ryan Garcia is now saying that supplements are tainted with Ostarine, the FDA is going to get involved, and
Right. Is that going to bring undue scrutiny upon the supplement industry, right?
right.
Which ends up impacting me and you, right?
Yep.
It impacts me and the people watching the show, right? It impacts us and the people watching the show, and that now we have to change the way we do business, even though we've done nothing wrong. And then the consumer has less access to the products that they want, even though they've done nothing wrong,
Right.
because there's people involved now who don't know any better, who are making these judgments, right?
Mhm.
And they're making these judgments sort of based on like sensationalism
Yep.
and hearsay and
Mhm.
speculation, and that's never good. We were talking about those products before that ended up getting banned. Like, to me, like the first generation pro hormone stuff, like one andro, or I mean, androstenedione, androstenedione, however you want to say it, right? That should still be available.
Yeah.
Like ephedrine should still be available. Like if you're 18 or older, you should still be able to get that stuff.
You can get ephedrine. You just got to know
right.
You just got to go to the medicine
right.
counter.
I'm saying you should be able to get it from a supplement store, right?
Yeah.
You should be able to get it in your fat burner. Like you should be able to get it in an RTD. Like you should still have access to that stuff. But because of sensationalism and overreaction and government overreach and speculation and media hype and all that, those things got banned before anybody got to do the due diligence and realize like, oh, okay, this isn't killing people or whatever. Like, the andro fallout was due to Mark McGuire. Mark McGuire had the andro in his locker, and then it became a whole thing.
Yeah, and that was, I think it was either ephedrine or DMHA or DMAA, where it was like troops in Afghanistan took it and went for a run, and one of them had a heart attack. We were running in the heat in Afghanistan, probably dehydrated.
Of course.
Was it the supplement that killed you or the conditions?
Right. I remember with ephedrine, there was a minor league pitcher who had like some pre-existing health issues and was taking, Rip Fuel or one of those, Xenadrin or one of those products, Hydroxycut, and I think like died in spring training. And which is horrible. Like and he very well could have been unknowingly using that product, not knowing what was in it, not knowing he had a pre-existing issue. Who knows the factors involved that led to such a terrible outcome. But then the stuff gets banned, and it's like, did the stuff get banned just as an overreaction to a tragedy, or did the stuff get banned because it should be banned because it's that dangerous? And my gut instinct and my general read on this kind of stuff was that it was an overreaction to an isolated incident. As sad as that isolated incident was, it wasn't necessarily like the difference between correlation and causation. Like it wasn't necessarily that he died because he took ephedrine. Like it wasn't that cut and dry.
Yeah.
But now nobody can use it, or nobody can easily access it, and it's banned from being included in supplement formulations and whatnot. And a lot of people are just like could happen as the fallout to Ryan Garcia or to the Panera, right? Where regular folks like you and I don't have access to stuff that we should be able to use.
But cigarettes are still legal, right? That's
of course.
The supplement doesn't have a big enough lobby. That's what it is.
Right. And it's like, cigarettes are still legal and available and readily available and really have no benefit.
No.
Like
none.
You and I could sit here and wax poetic about the benefits of being able to access ephedrine and andro if we wanted to, right? And all the positive that could potentially come from utilizing those with a proper training and diet regimen. But we don't have nobody can make that argument about cigarettes.
Right.
Nobody can make that argument at all about cigarettes, yet they're completely legal. And readily available on every street corner.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
All
right, we're at about the hour and a half mark. You want to wrap it for today?
Yeah, man.
That was a good one.
It was a good one. It's because we were a little bit fired up, man.
Man.
We were performance enhanced.
Yeah. We'll do it again tomorrow. You up for tomorrow?
I'm in, man. Let's do it again.
Right. We'll do the reaction.
All right. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Our first reaction. It's going to be dope.
Yeah. And we'll take our shots before and we'll be good to go.
Hell yeah, man. Can't wait.
All right. Cool, man. Thank you, dude.
All right, bro. Good stuff, man.
Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow, man.
Yep. Peace.
Later.